All right, I thought I would do one quick last video before I get on the road for a while. Probably be a few weeks before I have anything interesting to upload again other than waterfalls again. Anyways, so I got the engine and transmission out of this. Everything came out pretty easily. I guess I've kind of gotten to the point where I know where most of the fasteners and most of the hoses and everything are on these old probes, but um, apparently the engine was okay, or at least it wasn't seized up. As soon as I disconnected the engine from the transaxle, the engine rotated freely again. So that is a remanufactured CD4E. And on the outside, it looks horrid. The casing, the aluminum casing, is pretty well corroded. There's a couple of threaded bosses that are cracked away. Uh, and of course, it speaks volumes about the CD4E quality to have a remanufactured transmission on a car that doesn't even have 85,000 miles on it. But anyways, I'm assuming someone has probably, when it was remanufactured, I'm assuming they got a spec or two wrong when they were building up the gear train on it, and they've got one of these shafts sticking out too far. So I don't know for sure. I need to do some research on the CD4E again. It's been a long time since I've seen any of the technical specifications for it. But anyways, the hex shaft that you see, the one that's pointing out the farthest, that is the drive for the pump on the transmission. And then the next larger is the actual input for the gear train, and then the stator support. But I don't know how it is that a remanufactured transmission is in this bad a shape. Maybe somebody left it somewhere where it was getting constantly soaked with water or something. Maybe it's not the reman company's fault. Maybe it was, sitting for 15 years in a place, in an environment that it shouldn't have been. But at any rate, since someone has kind of done some stupid stuff to this engine, I don't know that this is going to go back in or not. It looks like they were kind of grasping at straws as far as trying to figure out why the engine is tied up, or why they thought the engine was tied up. So they cut the timing belt off of it. They've removed most of the bearing caps for the camshafts. The coolant that came out of it was horrid, so I don't know if there's any problems with the block. It smells like, the coolant smells like it had some bars leak stuff added to it. Anyways, that's the coolant. It looks more like coffee than coolant, and I wish you could smell it. It don't smell good. At any rate, for whatever reason, the power steering pump on this thing, power steering pump goes in this area right here. For whatever reason, I don't know if they thought that the power steering pump was locked up, but they also partially disassembled the power steering pump itself. So anyways, it's kind of a three-ring circus on this engine, but that's kind of irrelevant because I've got an entire powertrain from a manual transmission car that I can swap over to this. So maybe that's what we're going to wind up doing, is just changing this to a manual transmission. It'll probably be better in the long run anyways. One of the things, this 96 appears to have a crank position sensor, and the older engines do not. So I'm going to have to transfer that to the older engine so that all the electronics line up correctly. The catch is, it doesn't look like the proper mounting bosses are on the older engines. So I'm going to have to take the aluminum, I think it's the oil pump mount, off of this engine and transplant it onto the other engine if I go that route. We'll see. I may change my mind a half a dozen times before I actually get back to this car and start making some progress with it, but those are just a couple of the ideas I'm kicking around. Somebody put in brand new axle shafts, which, being for an automatic, I don't think that they'll fit on a manual transmission, but we'll see. I don't know for sure. They put on a brand new starter, and I believe they put on a brand new AC clutch. I don't think they put on a brand new AC compressor yet, but I don't know for sure. Let's see, what else? I think that about sums it up. Luckily it came apart very, very quickly and easily. I had the engine out in it, I guess, the following day after we had acquired this, got it home. So, granted, of course, someone had already done part of the work by disassembling the exhaust on the thing and removing a bunch of the periphery stuff, the air intake equipment and whatnot. The battery was already removed, et cetera, et cetera. So, anyways. Oh, and I identified a few things that I need to pay attention to in the future. One of them is I don't think the manual transmission cars have this, but there's a rubber engine mount that mounts right underneath the transaxle. It is sheared off and damaged. The tie rod ends are both in kind of rough shape. Looks like somebody may have taken an impact wrench to it at one point, because I can't get them. The nuts will not come loose without the whole assembly spinning. And at least that sway bar end link is sloppy. But otherwise, everything else looks to be in pretty decent condition. Oh, there was something funky. At least this rim on this side, for whatever reason, was not fitting all the way on the hub. I don't know if it's got corrosion and interfering because of that, but that's something else I'm going to have to look into. I'm pretty sure that they're the right rims for this car, but I think Ford used a similar style of rim on Mustangs and Tempos and Topaz, stuff like that. So hopefully it's the right rims, but God only knows with some of the other things that we've seen on this car so far. But, I mean, in all fairness, it was a young kid that owned the thing and was, desperately trying to make a cute old car come back to life. So I give him kudos for that, but damn, kind of fell short a little ways. But anyways, I'm getting ready to get on the road tomorrow, so I will catch up with you guys hopefully in a few weeks. So until then.